Hello and welcome to 11s with Lisa. It is traditional tea time live on Thursday mornings at 11 a.m. Or if you're watching us later on video replay, welcome to the show. I'm Louise Cooke. And today we're going to roll up our sleeves and do some work. And the work is basically how we work our data, what the workflow looks like. And Barbara left me a very interesting comment. She says that she found our recent videos about how Alice the genealogist avoids the rabbit hole. Did you watch those? So that was episode 68 and 69, I think it was. I'm getting the numbers off here, but the idea is that we talked about how Alice the genealogist, which is kind of all of us, can fall into rabbit holes, get sidetracked by stuff, and how to kind of overcome that. So she said she really enjoyed that. She says, I got a lot of BSOs in my life, bright, shiny objects, right? And she says, so having them in a holding area worked really well, just like we demonstrated using Evernote to help hold your BSOs. But she asked me, once you have processed them, whatever the genealogical document is, and extracted the information that you need, do you need to remove them from Evernote and place them in your digital genealogy filing system? So this is really about the process. What's a really good workflow process when you're dealing with stuff and figuring out which programs and things to put these items in? And there's certainly a lot of items. She says, I get a bit confused in thinking about what of the other purposes of Evernote might be. Wouldn't I just save my documents, newspaper clippings, etc., to my digital files on my hard drive? And also to my Google Drive folder, so she's using Google Drive as well. Is there any need to also have them in Evernote? Well, that's a really good question. And, we talk about a lot of these tools. I certainly like to share with you the tools that I'm using that I'm finding really effective. And that means we've got stuff in more than one place, right? So it is kind of easy to get confused and have stuff. Where do I look? Where is my stuff? Where do I put this? And pretty soon we kind of stop putting stuff away because we're not sure where to put it. So if we know we have a place to put it, then we always follow the same process. So I wanted to talk about that today. Really kind of just share with you my workflow and see if by chance this kind of works for you. Now, Evernote does play a part in my workflow. Clearly it does. I talk about it here a lot on the show. It's basically a cloud note-taking service, and there are several out there. I just happen to use Evernote. It really helps to have a consistent way to capture and find what you're actively working on. And I really do think there's a distinction between the stuff we're actively working on and the stuff that we need to archive that really does not need to be in front of us right now. And my workflow that I'm going to share with you today works great for me, but it's just one way. So please keep in mind that there might be pieces of it that will work well for you. If you have adopted Evernote, then maybe you'll be really interested in that part of it. Or if you're using a different note-taking service, or it may not be, but it might just be interesting to see how another genealogist does it. So I'm going to do my best to kind of share with you how I pass things through the Cooke research desk and try to get as much accomplished as I can. So follow along and see what might fit for you. Okay, so there are really about 5 major workstations through which your data flows. Okay, so this is data you're finding online, in person, wherever. And I say data, but it could be documents, it could be web clippings, it could be anything. But it's information. It's information about your family history that you're doing in your research. So the first kind of major workstation or place where it might flow through is there's your active genealogy work. And there's a couple different places that might end up. It might end up in Evernote. It might be some information that also goes on to one of your genealogy websites that you have a subscription to. Maybe you want to add that information to your family tree. There might be a pending folder that you like to use on your hard drive. I have a couple of those, but I don't use those too much on the hard drive side, and I'll explain why. I do, though, have archival 3-ring notebooks. We've talked about those here on the show. See episode 7 for that. And I believe that's part of the premium membership archive. So if you're a premium member, you can go back and watch that full video class. I set up my 3-ring notebooks because I need a place to put the paper that I really want to hang on to. And so that's all organized within the binder, but I do include a pending tab because sometimes paper comes to the desk and I don't want it piling up in a box on my desk, or not a box on my desk, just piles everywhere. I lose track of stuff and that wastes time. So the idea is to get it into the binder for the family it applies to, but get it into a section where you know this isn't finished yet. It's pending processing. And we'll talk about processing. And then another area is conclusions added to your master genealogy database. So when the information's flowing through and you've drawn conclusions and you've really proven something and you feel good about it, you want to add that to one place that's kind of the brain of the operation, and that's your genealogy software, your database. And yes, you can put your family tree on websites and such, but we'll talk about why I don't do that as my primary master database. You need one place that you go to that says, this is the final word on where I'm at right now in this moment in time in my research. So that's what the master database is about. So that's your computer software. And then stuff is going to flow into your archival digital storage area because there's going to be a lot of digital stuff. These days, we tend to have more digital than we have paper. So this is going to go onto your computer. And this is something we covered my whole online computer folder structure. We talked about that in episode 8. And again, that is now in the premium archive as well. And that was all about archiving and step-by-step how you set up all the file folders and what the process is behind that. So you got to have a place that you know where you're going to put stuff away when you're done with it. And you can keep archival stuff in Evernote as well. And I'm going to show you how you can kind of do both. So we'll talk about that too. And then there's the paper. So we need a place to archive the paper that we have. We've finished processing it, and now it needs to go away. For me, that's my 3-ring binders. And we talked about how I set up my 3-ring binders in episode 6. But don't forget the last piece of where your data flows. It should flow into an automatic cloud backup. And this is an integral part of the whole structure because we know at any step along the way, whether it's your computer or whether it's somebody's website or whatever, something could happen to it. And so we just want that one more extra layer of protection to make sure that if something goes wrong. And I can tell you, this summer, I dropped my phone in the pool. It was literally in the pool for like 2.5 seconds. It is toast. It is so dead. And so having cloud backup, it's thousands of photos and all these conferences I've been to and all these pictures I take to put in my column in Family Tree magazine. Oh my gosh. It can happen in a flash, and you don't think it will. It can happen to your laptop too, or your computer. And there's a zillion different ways things could go wrong. So I use Backblaze as my automatic backup. Whatever you use, just make sure you have one. But certainly if you want to try out Backblaze, they've been very much a part of the genealogy community. I know those guys well. They're awesome people. So you can check out backblaze.com/Lisa. Okay, so that's kind of the different places and the different kinds of stuff that's going to come through your workflow. Not everything that I find, all this stuff that's incoming, when I'm out there doing my active research, I'm hopefully got stuff coming my way. I've got documents and information. But not everything I find while I'm researching is ready to be archived the moment I find it, of course, right? So it might be stuff that I'm exploring in my current research project. I need it. I'm working with it. It might be an item pending analysis. Maybe I got lucky and I got a whole bunch of downloads of stuff and it just cannot all be processed on the same date. So it's pending my analysis, right? And there might be some items that I think, well, this looks pretty good. I've really analyzed it, but at this point, it's still kind of unproven. I'm not so sure that this really is the right person or it's the right conclusion. So it needs to kind of hang tight and be part of the active research until I figure that out. There's also items playing a role in a bigger research question that I want altogether. So maybe I'm not currently working in that particular area, but I know that that could come into play in a bigger project or a different project I'm working on. So this is stuff I'm not ready to archive yet. And of course, bright, shiny objects, those BSOs, the stuff that catches our eye. We get lucky. We just see something. We go, oh my gosh, look at that. That is so, I can't wait to look at that. That has something to do with my other family line. But right now I'm trying to work on this research project. So the bright, shiny objects need a place to be housed. And that's what we talked about in that last video. And I'll have links to those in the video description below here on YouTube and, of course, in the show notes. So it's stuff that I find along the way. It's not related to my project, but I can't archive it because I don't want to forget to go back and really spend some time on it and analyze it. So a cloud-based note-taking tool is going to help me deal with all of this. And that's why we talked about Evernote last week in episode 70. We have different devices, tablets, computers, phones, all that stuff is how we're gathering this information. We might be doing an audio interview with somebody that we're recording on our phone. We've took a picture of a grave site. We've created some videos. Most of my research happens on my desktop, but more and more, there's stuff coming from all directions. So this really solves the problem because a cloud-based note-taking tool is going to allow you to use all your devices and hopefully include the ability to gather together any kind of digital item that gets created. And so it can all land in one place. Like I said, I'm using Evernote, but you might be using OneNote or Google Keep. There's several different ones out there. If Evernote sounds new to you, you didn't see last week's, make a note. Go check out episode 70 while it's still free here on YouTube. And check out the show notes over at my website because they're really, really detailed. I've got all the step-by-step on that, how to kind of get started and try it. You can try it for free. So I'm going to talk about Evernote. It could be any cloud note-taking type thing you're using. But a cloud note-taking service is really unique because it allows me to capture and hold these items that are coming my way through different devices. It also gives me the ability to search and retrieve a lot more effectively and efficiently than I can on my computer, and that's thanks to optical character recognition. So Barbara was asking about, well, why don't I just put this on my hard drive? Well, that makes sense. But my hard drive doesn't have OCR on it. And so I want to be able to really quickly find stuff. And also, if I file it away on some deep folder on my hard drive, I'm not really holding it and capturing it and holding it, am I? I'm actually kind of putting it away out of sight, and I might never get back to it. And I might think later, 3 years down the road, I look at it and go, oh, I guess that's a done deal. Why? I guess that's, but maybe I didn't prove it at all. I didn't really take the time to analyze it. So I think of this cloud note-taking service as this active workspace, the pending workspace. It's not out of sight, out of mind. And this is where I'm going to be working my current genealogy research plan. Whatever my research question is I've developed and I've put a plan together to try to answer it, this is what's happening here in my active workstation of Evernote. And the beauty of making a note-taking system like Evernote my active workspace is that if I want to get together with a distant cousin or another researcher and I want to be able to share what I found, I don't want to have to go digging and attaching all of these items out of my hard drive onto an email or something. With Evernote, with one shareable link, I can really easily share the stuff that I've gathered so far. So that's a huge, you can see we want a tool that sets us up for success because we want to anticipate down the road the kinds of things that are going to come up while we're still actively working it. And that's kind of what led me to draw this conclusion about how I use Evernote. And storing and sharing media. So a lot of the media that I've been doing lately has been coming off my phone. And thankfully, because there's a mobile app for this cloud note-taking service, Evernote, I can easily send photos and particularly my audio recordings, my videos I'm creating or taking. All that is really easy versus if you've ever tried to, email a video to yourself or save it to Dropbox or something, it can take a long time. So getting it into an Evernote note, wow, it just syncs right up immediately and automatically. So does everything go straight into Evernote? Well, let's take a look at what happens to the kinds of digital stuff that I find. I might have a downloaded genealogy record that I find on a website. I might be taking a clipping of an article, particularly newspaper articles. Fantastic, because if it goes into Evernote, it's going to get OCR'd. I might be taking a photograph of a gravesite with my phone. Any kind of stuff that's coming my way, I'm going to have to decide if that's going to go straight into Evernote or not. So part of this is about working my genealogy plan. Before a digital item is deemed relevant and ready to archive, I've already analyzed it, I've already extracted all the information, all that stuff. We have a lot of work to do because we do need to spend some time making sure we've evaluated it properly and we have analyzed it, we have extracted that information, and that information may not just go into my software. I might also want to put some of that into one of my online trees. I tend to use my online trees as a way to try to generate hints and generate connections with other researchers and things. They're not comprehensive like my database, but that might be a place where this information needs to go. But not everything can happen in one sitting. And anybody who's been doing research for a while knows that sometimes great stuff comes your way, sometimes not, but you can't always complete all those tasks at the one time that you're sitting there. You might need to come back to it this weekend and you want to be able to pick it up and put it down. So we may be doing that several times. As we're going through this processing phase of working with the item, we are probably going to pick it up and put it down several times on different occasions. So these are our active items. I just want to stress that there's a real difference between the active workspace that's happening and the archival. We may still need that item also for reference as we're working a bigger research plan and trying to reach our goals. Now, the opposite of the active is the archive stuff. And this has already been fully processed. I've analyzed it. I've evaluated it. It's no longer playing an active role in my research plan. So here's an example. I get a document, I work with it and everything, but now that has to do with my mom's side of the family. Now I'm working on my dad's side of the family. So that's the current research plan, but I might need to look at it again. It's important that it's archived in such a way that I can always put my hands on it again really easily. But really, because it's not part of the active plan, it doesn't need to be right in front of me. Okay, so active digital items, those typically are going straight into Evernote. Okay, my active items are going there. These are what I consider to be the stuff that I'm currently working on. This is not what I consider to be my archival workspace. Might there be things then in Evernote that are also on my hard drive? Absolutely. And that's fine. And it's fine because there's no storage limit on Evernote. So when I look at an item in Evernote, I know that that's kind of a working document is how I think about it. When I see that same item somewhere on my hard drive, I know it's been analyzed, it's been processed, the information's been extracted. This is part of my family history. And I know where to find it on my hard drive. So it's okay that there is duplication. That's why I keep coming back to this idea that the database is the brain of the organization, the master. Yes, I have that same information somewhere else on my family tree, on my heritage or ancestry. And that duplication is fine, but I always have to know what's the final word. And the final word on my documentation of my sources is my hard drive. The final word on my family tree data is my software database. If that same information is available in other places, because that's where I was dabbling and working, great, no problem. So This is not to say that you can't store everything in Evernote forever. Just want to make that clear. However, there are a few reasons that I don't store everything or use Evernote as what we call archival. So I want to share that with you because I don't think we've really talked about that here on the show. So why I don't store everything in Evernote. If we store everything on a website or in a cloud service, they or their hosting provider, either one of them, have the ability to pull the plug on that. So that's your data, right? And in a sense, if that's our one and only place, they have all the control. And I don't want to take that risk. Is that likely to happen? No, probably not, but it has happened. So knowing that, we just have to be smart and say, I don't know about you. I'm not willing to take the risk that something changes tomorrow and it turns out that my data is no longer available. And also, most websites, if they were to really go out of business or they were to sell to another company, they're probably going to have, and typically if you read the terms of service, you'll see there'll be like a 30-day notice. That sounds like a lot. It's not a lot when you have a ton of information and you got to figure out how to move it. I don't want to be in that position of scrambling to move it. What if I'm on vacation for a couple of weeks and I miss it? Or, oh no, what if that email notification goes to my spam folder and I never saw it? And the 30 days passes. You get my drift. I'm a big risk taker in many ways, but not with this stuff that I have worked on since I was 8 years old. I've been working on this stuff, so I don't want to lose it, right? I know you don't either. So if I only leave it on Evernote, then I've put it completely in the hands of this online company that could be gone tomorrow. Any company could be gone tomorrow, purchased tomorrow, have a big power outage. Who knows what could happen, okay? Not to scare you, but just to say, let's be real, right? We want to make sure that we're taking care of our stuff. So in order to retain that control of my family history data, my long-term storage, the archival stuff, that needs to be within my control. So that's my computer. That's my hard drive. And it's any external hard drives that I have that I want to add stuff to. I tend to put a lot of digitized photos on an external hard drive. I feel okay doing that, even though those can break, probably easier than a laptop could. But when I plug that external hard drive into my computer and leave it plugged in, when Backblaze does the automatic backup, it sees that as part of it and it's included in my subscription. So I'm getting all of that backed up. Yes, they're an online cloud provider, but they aren't the only one I'm using. They are just the backup. So if they disappear tomorrow, I still have my hardware and I can put something else in place very quickly. Okay, so there's a little bit of a distinction there. And I do more and more paper printouts. And so for so many years, we've been trying to kind of get away from paper, but I also consider that, you know what? I've been cleaning out this closet I have with all this stuff I've been collecting for the years on both sides of our families. And it's amazing how the paper endures. Have you noticed that? It does. It's endured better than my phone that ended up at the bottom of the pool, that's for sure. Okay, so that's kind of why I don't use Evernote as my final archival plan and why I really believe in taking control of your own data. I have a whole video about that in the premium video collection as well. So maintaining control of your data when it comes to my active research project, I'm willing to trade the risk for the speed and the convenience. That's why I'm willing to put that stuff in Evernote. And right now, that's the only place it is because I haven't yet fully processed it. But that's really a fraction of my total research. If the pending stuff, the stuff in my current project disappeared tomorrow, that would be sad and I'd be bummed, but it would be absolutely okay because it's a very small portion of my total amount of family history. And it's none of the stuff that I have already said, this is absolutely, I feel very confident this is my family. So And as you process stuff, as you're working with it in Evernote, you are putting it in other places, so you're not even then going to lose everything. But I do think that there's such an advantage in the speed with which you can work with stuff in Evernote, the OCR that they apply, the convenience of being able to collaborate. I mean, there's just so many upsides during a research project that I think it's worth it. So when I find an item, I have a decision to make. Where am I going to put it? Am I going to put it in Evernote? Well, it depends what it is. So let's talk about that. So here are the items that I would save to Evernote. And again, I have all of this on the show notes for you as well. Items that really need and are benefited by OCR. If OCR is going to make a big difference, I'm taking a web clipping of a newspaper article. I have, some other typed up, maybe a clipping out of a book from Google Books. There's all kinds of different documents. Even I've showed you in a past episode, we were talking about my Irish research. You remember that? And I had picked photographs of the Scully tombstone from my Scully family. And Evernote was able to read it with OCR. It was awesome. So I could retrieve it super easy by simply typing that surname into the search engine in Evernote. So newspaper articles, web clippings, photographs of tombstones, that kind of stuff, that's going to really benefit by going directly into Evernote. Anything I'm creating on my phone and my tablet, well, that makes sense because the app makes it so easy just to funnel that right in. So even if it's already something that I know eventually is going to go straight practically into archive, I'm still going to probably send it to myself through Evernote. It's just the easiest way to do it. So photos of grave sites, documents, interview recordings, videos of research trips that I've done, all that stuff's going to go into Evernote. Also, items that need analysis before being confirmed as pertaining to my family. So an example of that would be you're working at a genealogy website and you find a document and you go, this is great, but I'm not totally sure if that's my guy. I'm going to download that document and have it in Evernote so I can really spend some time on it. Cloud note-taking services make working your research plan so much easier. It's one place for all the stuff to come, easy search, and not just finding a single item, but any combination of notes. My friends, that's really why I spent so much time on this last week with Evernote, was that the idea that I can click and say, from these tags with this keyword, I want those notes. Think about your hard drive. Gosh, stuff's all over the place and it could be very organized, but it is kind of challenging to try to very quickly pull just those 4 items from totally different areas together that you need in order to cross-reference them and analyze them. In Evernote, it's instantaneous. And it's all right there in front of you. It's in one column. There's just no comparison. So that's part of it, is that not just the ease of retrieval, but the fact that you can get any combination of notes immediately. Even a census record that has 3 different families on it, if it has that one family you need, boy, you need to grab that, and you don't want to have 16 copies of that all over your hard drive. So one of the things I love to do too is collaborate with people. So again, having an Evernote makes that really easy. And stuff that I would save to Evernote are bright, shiny objects. We talked about that. So downloaded genealogy records I don't have time to process right now. Perfect. And I could simply have a tag, pending, to be processed, along with all the other tags that I add to that note. So when I have time to sit down and actually work on the backlog, it's nice to have a backlog of really good stuff to go look at, right? I want to be able to click my pending tab and also then say, oh, wow, look at all these stuff. Okay, well, let's work on all the census records. And I add that tag to my kind of search that pulls out which notes I'm going to be working on. So using the tagging system, that's one of the things that makes it so unique and so effective in terms of working with your stuff. So let's talk about the stuff that I might then save directly to my computer hard drive. Well, these are sources that have been processed already. Okay, so I've finished them. They're going to go to the archive. Is the item a digital scan of a visual image? Something very visual. Family photos, postcards. I do lots of postcards that I find, and all kinds of historical pictures and things. So when I find a postcard, and this is Winthrop, Minnesota, from the time frame that my husband's family lived there, I already know that's the right place. That's the right time. I'm there. I don't have to prove that. I know they're in Winthrop. So I will just put those straight into where I archive location images for that family. And I'm going to put that on my computer. And another reason there's really no need to just put that into Evernote is that imagery is going to be larger file size. So if you really don't need it to work your research plan, maybe it's just some social history, context, stuff that you're finding, why take up the monthly storage? Because you are limited on a monthly basis when it comes to putting stuff into Evernote. So I figure that stuff's just going to go straight into the hard drive because it's not actually part of the analysis. Make sense? And really large files that I create on my computer. So I do videos and audio and stuff on my phone, and that's really easy to send through the Evernote app. But I'm making kind of larger family history videos. We've talked about that here on the show, on the channel. And I love doing that. But they're big, and I usually do them at the highest resolution possible. So again, why drop that in Evernote? It's not really active research. It's an archival item. It's something I'm going to maybe share with the family or whatever. So I don't want to, put 20 megabytes of video or a gigabyte of video. I mean, who knows how big the video is, into Evernote if I don't need to, and then gobble up that monthly storage. So that would be an example of something that would go straight to my computer hard drive, not into Evernote. And of course, I do have a system for organizing my hard drive. So it makes it super easy to very quickly find what I'm looking for. And we've talked about this in past episodes. You'll recognize that picture. So if you're a premium member, you can go and check out the archival version of that. And also, if you want to follow my system, members can go and watch my video class with the handout hard drive organization, step by step, setting up all your files. So the bottom line is, whenever I need to find something for my active research, I'm going to look in one of two places. First, in Evernote, which is my software, note-taking software, and then I would look on my computer hard drive. It's not going to take me very long. Evernote's going to be an instant look. It's either there or it's not. If it's not, I know it's on my hard drive, and there might be a reason for that. So in that respect, it takes a little longer sometimes to find stuff on my hard drive, but it's so fast on Evernote, no problem. Okay, so archiving processed items, the stuff that you've finished, you've reached your goal, you know that you've answered this question, it's time to archive your stuff. Well, I could just leave it in Evernote, that's not a problem, but I want all my genealogical sources archived on my computer. And I do that for long-term storage. I also like the fact that I know that Backblaze is backing that up automatically. So yes, you can leave it in Evernote, but I've already explained the reasons why I don't do that. So let me show you what you need to know about Evernote. You can't just download everything with one click in its original file format. Okay, so if you've put in 100 census records and you're archiving them all in Evernote, and some 30-day thing happens or some, thing, and they say, oh, it's going to be sold, we're not going to have this business anymore, which could happen to any service, any genealogy website, doesn't matter. If that happens, there isn't one button to click to then just extract everything. You could extract everything, but you're not going to like the file type it's in. And it's going to all be in one block. They have something called there's an Evernote kind of file extension, or you could save it as a web page, an HTML. This is not what you want, my friend. So that doesn't really work. You can't just click one thing and get everything out. You can save, though, individual digitized items that are in your note, like the census record that you downloaded so that you could work with it, make it part of your research plan. Now it's time to archive it. Genealogical records can be saved individually, or any image, any web clipping can be saved individually to your hard drive. Since there is no lifetime storage limit, I just leave my stuff in Evernote. If I already put it in Evernote, even when I go to archive it to the hard drive, I can leave it there. That's fine. It doesn't cost me anything. And it really doesn't clutter up my ability to find anything else because the search feature is so effective. So why not have it there? That's fine. You can remove it if you want to, but you don't need to. I also save the image to my computer hard drive. So I want to show you how to do that. I'm looking at this census record. I'm going to right click on it. If you're on a Mac, I think you might command click and save as. So we've right clicked on the image itself within the note, save it as, give it a name, and now it is a JPEG saved to my computer. And I double checked. This image is exactly the same size as it was when I downloaded it first from the website. So we didn't lose anything, and it was in a really convenient spot during the active research process, and with just that one click. So when I kind of wrap up that research plan, then I'll go through maybe and archive these. And typically I'm doing that as I go. Once I've confirmed, yep, this is the family, that's great. Okay, even if it remains part of my plan, I'm still working with this family in Evernote. At the moment that I've agreed that this is the right person, right family, I'm going to go ahead and archive it into the hard drive. So the fact that I just do it along the way, it's just one extra click. If I do that consistently, I'm in good shape. I never have to worry about where stuff is or if I've done it or not. You can even make a note to yourself or add a tag, archived. How about that? Create an archive tag in your tags list in Evernote. Okay? And of course, your research never ends, so it's not like you might not need it again in the future. Okay, so after I've answered my research question, I quickly develop the next one, of course, and I plan a new plan around it. So, of course, your stuff never ends. So what happens later when you want to find your stuff? Now you've got some things in some different places. That could be a little scary, but it's not, because there's a method to the madness here. I may have my family tree information on genealogy websites and online family trees. I might have stuff in Evernote. Of course, I obviously do. I might even have my own family history website. So I've got some stuff that's been uploaded there. That's the sharing out of the research. But my database, my software on my computer, is the last word on what I believe to be accurate about my family history, what I have discovered so far. So it is the brain of the operation. Think of it that way. That means I'm going to turn to my database, my software, whenever I want to find something. If I don't instantly find it, I'm going to look at my software. Or it might be that somebody asks me a question and I'm going to go look it up. So as I'm drawing conclusions and I'm adding data to my family tree in my database, of course, I'm citing my sources. All these sources I'm working with in Evernote and on my computer. So therefore, everything I need to know about my tree that is proven, if you will, if it's concluded, then that's in my software. And that's an area where I can control it. So again, if somebody comes along and says, well, Lisa, what about this? That doesn't look quite right. I found something different. You're not right. Well, I can go look that up in my database and I'm going to see all my sources cited. And I can quickly look up the answer and see where I got it. Remember, if it's part of something I know I'm currently working on, I'm going to look at Evernote first. But typically, if it's been cited in the database, that's an archive. I know it is because I've already drawn a conclusion. I've already added it it has been cited, and I know exactly what the source is. So because of the way I structure my hard drive organization and my binder, I know exactly where to look. So I only have 3 places to look: my computer, the archival digital files, especially if it's not part of my active research, of course, Evernote if it is part of the current research, and that surname binder if it happens to be something in paper form. So I can usually tell by looking at the source citation. Sometimes I'll even say in the source citation or make a note to myself that that's an original paper document, right? So I will know, well, that's going to be there in my binders. So here's a few final thoughts. I know this is a lot to take in, and it's always kind of weird listening to somebody else's, process and workspace. And if you've heard it all and go, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. That's fine. That's cool. Maybe you heard some things and you're like, I hadn't thought about that. And so that's what I'm hoping, is that you're just going to maybe get some nuggets and things that will help you be the kind of researcher that you want to be. So there are exceptions to any rule, right? And none of these are actually really rules. They're rules for me because I've already developed this process, so I stick to it. And there might be items and there are for me, that just don't neatly fall exactly into my process. So I reserve the right to make the decision. And you know what? You can always make notes to yourself. That's the beauty of the cloud note taking, is that you can just type in a little something extra to just jog yourself, remind yourself, explain why it's here and not there, whatever it is. Be good to yourself. Be nice to yourself in your research, and just know you're doing the best you can, and you can leave yourself little breadcrumb notes along the way. Use your own best judgment on how to handle the exceptions. Life is full of exceptions. And one last thought I want to make sure I leave you with is to be sure to share your Evernote credentials if you go with a service like this, and your software, your computer password, all that stuff. Make sure you're putting those passwords and credentials in a secure spot, and that you have at least one trusted relative who knows how to get their hands on it, who has a copy. This is really important because just like something could happen to a website tomorrow, something could happen to one of us tomorrow. And, we want to make sure that our legacy that we're building here, this empire of family history, is going to be passed on, and something that future generations can really enjoy. If you want to learn more about saving your research from destruction, episode 10 was all about that, and that is part of the premium member archive, the video class archive as well. So that, my friends, is my genealogy data flow. I don't know what you think. Maybe you could go in the comments. You could say, Lisa, you're all wet. I don't know what you're talking about. Or, hey, I heard you mention that. I didn't know that about the storage limit. I hadn't thought about what if something happens to this service. You put it in the comments. Would love to hear what you think, and be encouraging to other genealogists who come along the way who might appreciate your ideas as well. So I'm going to jump back here and check chat. So I'm going to do my best here. Let me take a quick look. Do you add document images to family tree software? You absolutely can. I don't do it as much as some people do. And I think it's probably just because I always like to go, I know exactly where I'm going to go on my hard drive. So I tend to go look there. So I don't do it as much probably as some people do, or as much as I would like to. It's really about time and where I decide to put my energy. So it's up to you. Do you digitize the paper items in your binders? Barbara, yeah, not always. Now, most of my old stuff was digitized when I set up the binder system. So I did it at that time. But again, it's a time trade-off, isn't it? I'm always trying to think about how I want to spend my time and what's important to me. And when I know where that stuff is, then I do my best. I digitize if possible because I feel like that's awesome for a backup. But I don't get mad at myself if I'm really going to work on something else. So it's up to you. That's my goal. I strive to digitize before it goes into the binder. So I would say most of my stuff is digitized. Let me look here. Now the chat scrolled up, so I'm going to look and see if I missed a question. What is the difference and the similarities between iCloud and Backblaze? iCloud is Apple, so it's a little different because iCloud is what would have saved my stuff from my phone, right? So if I have iCloud turned on my phone, it's copying everything on my phone. Now maybe, and I'm not a Mac user, so I don't know, but maybe you can use iCloud for your Mac desktop. And if that's the case, great. It's even better if it's free. I have no idea. For my Windows computer, I use Backblaze because it is solely focused on all the data on my computer. And I also have it for my laptop, so all the data on my laptop. But again, when you think about what's the brain of the operations, when I think of all these devices we're using, my computer desktop is the brain of the operations. That's where I look to first. Oh, great. Margaret says she's enjoying the information. How do you work with ancestry hints? Do you put that into Evernote? You know, it kind of depends. If it's a really quick, Rolf, it's a really quick one, and I'm thinking, I can work this right now, I just do it. I do it right there in Ancestry, and then it goes straight into my database. I'm entering that into my database. If it's anything I have a question about or just go, whoa, I'm going to need to work on that. Yeah, I might take a screen clip. I'm going to mark that up with my tag so I remember to go back to it and really think it through. It's so tempting when you get those hints to kind of take them at face value and just go with them. But better safe than sorry. I'd rather clip it into Evernote and budget some time to really analyze it and make sure that it's correct before I go and adding it. Let's see here. Oh, good. Andrew's helping us out from England. Hi, Andrew. He's talking about iCloud. Good, because I have no clue. I'm clueless in Texas about Apple stuff. I use Apple for my mobile devices, but not for my computing. How do you ensure the full source of the item and location where you got it is on the image you have in Evernote? Okay, so that source citation information, that's the beauty of Evernote. Okay, so one thing is, oftentimes I'm using Snagit to do a lot of capturing because I can do anything and everything I could possibly ever want to that note in terms of annotating it or marking it up or whatever. If it's pretty straightforward and I clipped it into Evernote, Evernote's going to grab the URL and include that. It's going to have a date stamp on it, but I'm going to probably go back, let's say the example of a newspaper, and I'm going to come back to the newspaper page on the website after I've clipped it, and I'm going to copy that source citation information. Library of Congress Chronicling America is a perfect example of this. It's going to have the whole kit and caboodle about which paper and which year and which volume and which page, right? So I'm going to copy that and go and, again, click back inside the note and paste. Now I got a gorgeous, citation. Another thing I do, I go and I will web clip the top of the page, the masthead of the newspaper, the title page of the book. I will add that to the note. It's such minuscule storage space that you're taking up and doing it, and it's so valuable to have that later. So do it in the moment. Do it in the moment. Gosh, I worked for a gal years ago in corporate America, and she'd say, touch it once. I don't want to see you pick that thing up three times, because you should be able to do this, now there's analysis projects, that's not true. But when you're doing a task like that, you're clipping something, you're grabbing an item, you should be able to take a moment and just get all the goodies that go with it and make sure you have it in one place. I will continue to look through all of the chat and look at your questions, certainly the comments that you leave here at YouTube down below in the comments section. And I will add those to the show notes. And yes, the show notes are up and available. It is episode 71 at genealogygems.com/11s. And gosh, friends, you guys have been so awesome about joining me here and clicking the subscribe button. And we are like within, I think, 200 people of getting to 20,000 subscribers. So that would be awesome. And the benefit to you in subscribing is that it puts our channel here on YouTube in your little favorites list in the library on the left-hand side of the screen. So it makes it really easy to find us again. And another easy way to find me again is to come to my website and get the free newsletter. It comes out once a week, tells you what's going on, gives you all the links, and you get a free bonus PDF little ebook download with your first email. So that's a good deal, right? That's what we've got for you today. Lots to think about, and I'm so glad that you joined me. This is always so much fun to meet with you, and I will look forward to seeing you again here soon. Have a wonderful week. God bless you, my friend. Bye-bye.